What happens when a gingerbread man parachutes into a glass of milk? Hey guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. I have been having so much fun with the new Snap and Slide from Pearblossom Press, and someone in one of my recent live streams had an idea that I really wanted to do this as my design team project this month. This is such a fun die set, and I will show some pictures of some of the other cards that I've made, other than one we're going to work on today. Today's going to be all Christmassy, and what we're going to be doing is we're using the Gingerbread delivery die set from Spellbinders. This is part of the August new release, and we're going to also be using a little bit of the Gingerbread plain, and I'm also going to use this one that is a little older. This one is the Love on the Rocks. I'm pretty sure this is still available. I'll leave links to everything down below this video. I may use Waffle. I'm not sure about the other couple of things, but these are the main ones that I'm wanting to do today. I've already cut everything out. I actually cut out several of the gingerbread men, and I made a couple of gingerbread men cards. They are just so stinking cute. But I've already got everything basically cut out so we can assemble all of the bits. And then I'm going to do something special and add it to the Snap and Slide. So first off, I'm going to decorate my little gingerbread man. There are some pieces that go behind all the pieces on our little guy. So we've got a piece to go behind his face so that we have got his frosting mouth and eyes, and around for his buttons. So that's the main bit, and isn't he just adorable, just like that? But we've also got some pieces for the frosting for around his arms, and that is kind of the decorating bit on here. So I'm going to go ahead and add those real quick. Of course, we do have a hat and a scarf, so we're going to do that one as well. But that isn't really all that much. I'm going to make it so he has a green hat with the white trim. The die for this cuts all the pieces out at once, so that's why I cut it out twice. Okay, so he is now ready to be a paratrooper and jump out of a little gingerbread plane. I'm going to line up my little gingerbread man, line up the parachute, and then we can add these on, and then we can also add the other end down to his body so that it looks like he is hanging from the parachute. And now back here, we can add some glue there so we can attach that white piece that's going to give it a little bit of dimension. So I'm just going to position that so it is showing from behind. There we go. And now it looks like his lines, his rope is attached to the inside of the parachute. And that's what I wanted. Now, another thing I am going to do, I've got some extras of my little gingerbread man. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to the back of my gingerbread man, just to make sure that everything stays stable, because this is going to be my moving interactive piece. Yes, that's right. So let's go ahead and add that on there right on the back. It's going to thicken it up a little bit, add a little bit of weight to it, and it's going to make it so none of the pieces are able to come apart because they're going to be glued between those two bits. It's going to be sandwiched in. And I think what I'm also going to do, I'm going to cut another one of this top bit, the parachute, and do the same thing. So I'm going to make this into a slimline card. So I'm going to score a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock at 3.5. You could also cut your cardstock down first and cut it at 7, but that requires me going to my bigger paper trimmer to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a 3.5, and we're going to go ahead and burnish that down. And then we can trim it right at that edge, okay? So this is going to be an 8.5 by 3.5 inch card. For slim lines, you can pretty much do them any size that you want to. It's entirely up to you. But this is a measurement that I know is going to fit perfectly in a business size envelope. Then I'm going to do another panel to go over the front, and that's going to measure 3.5 by whatever the end is. I don't know. I'm going to make it about a 1/4 inch shorter on both ends. So if this is 8.5, that means it needs to be cut down to 8. And my paper trimmer does not do that, so I just need to cut off a 1/2 inch on one end. There we go. And then of course I'm going to just test it and make sure that it actually fits on there the way I'm expecting it to. So there we go. Next we're going to make a slider. This is going to be so fun. I'm going to actually use a rectangle die to create my slider. And there is one, I think that might be about the right size. You could use, I'm going to double check and make sure that this is going to work. So we've got this little rectangle die that is in the Love on the Rocks. This is a straw. I just need to make sure that it's going to work for my snap and slide. We need to make sure that it's big enough for that piece, okay? And that just means that it needs to be big enough so that that little slot is going to be big enough for that hole. And I'd say yes, it looks like this is right at a 1/4 inch, so it should work. It's not long enough for what I want, so I'm going to have to cut it actually a couple of times. And why don't we also use our Pearblossom Press T-square to make sure that it is actually in the center of the card. And that is right at the center. So we've got to have a 1.5, 1.25 on this side, 1.5 on that side. So that is in the center there. And then I can just draw a line connecting everything to give an idea of where I want this to go. I'm going to start at the bottom. And I'm going to use a little bit of tape. So I've got my best ever craft tape to hold my die in place. I'm going to line it up right on that line. Now, if you have a sentiment die that's longer, use that. Use whatever you have to create this slit. You just need it to be wide enough for the snap and slide to fit in there. Let's go ahead and run that one through. And then I can show you the snap and slide piece. So we've got the first part of our slit in there. Can take my die off. And then I'm going to take one of the snap and slides and we're going to make sure that this is the right size, because if it's not, I need to find another die. Okay, so if you haven't seen the snap and slide yet, it has 2 pieces. One is the front and one is the back. And the way this is going to go, put one part through there and it looks like it fits fine. And then we put the other one and we just snap it right on there. And now it's going to slide back and forth. So I can already tell that this is not going to be tall enough for what I'm doing. We've got the glass. So the glass is going to be here. And that's perfect. But I do need that to go up a bit higher. So let's pull out our gingerbread man. And I'd say I want him to start right about there. So I'm going to take my pencil again and we're going to mark right about there. And that's where I want the top of my slider mechanism to go to. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut the rest of it, ending right up at the top. I'm going to go ahead and get our milk ready to go. So now we have a glass of milk for them to go down into. And then I'm going to need to add a little bit of foam to the top of that. Now I'm going to, actually I think I'm going to do that last to make sure I've got enough foam on there. We're going to go ahead and attach. No, I'm not. I am lying. I forgot that I wanted to do one more thing with this panel, and that's because there is such a fun embossing folder that I can use with it. This die set came with the waffle cones. I'm going to do the waffle cone background right over the top of our our main panel. So we're going to do that. Let's go ahead and run that through. This is a 3D embossing folder, so you need to use your 3D embossing folder sandwich. This is just going to add a little bit of texture to that background. So next we're going to add us some foam. So I've got my World's Best Foam Tape from Pearblossom Press. This, if you haven't tried it, you really need to. This is, number one, it has really easy to remove release paper. It is double thick, great for things like light up cards and sliders. But the best thing is that if you put it down wrong, you can move it. That is my favorite feature on this one. So we're going to put that on the back. And I've decided that this is the texture I'm going to have on the back of this. We're going to put this on the back so that we've got enough room for our slider to basically slide. We just need to have enough room for our little embellishment there, our little snap and slide to go in the middle. So I'm going to give it about a 1/4 inch on each side, I think. That's probably more than enough. So I think this is a 1/2 inch, so that would actually be like a 3/4 inch gap. You don't really need that much, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to, of course, test it to make sure I've got the right amount. So let's take out one of our snap and slides. I'll put one right under so that it is right in the middle of that gap. And then I'll pop the one on top. And it slides with no problem. So that is perfect. Now I'm going to add some more foam tape to the back here because, of course, I don't want any of this to be saggy. So I'm going to make sure everything is nice and level all the way around. And then we can position that onto our card base. There we go. So now we just need to add our, yeah, we have to add that. I actually had another thought. Let me do one more. I want this to make sure that it stays going straight up and down. You could leave it on there and then it can kind of, float. Let's try it both ways. I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking about adding a second one of these. At this point, I do want to add some foam behind my little glass because I want it to pop up a little bit from the background to give this little guy room to slide in. And I'm going to use some more of my Pearblossom Press foam tape. And I think I actually need to put a little bit less foam. So I'm going to actually cut these vertically so that there's more space in there for my little guy to go in. See what I mean? It's not quite enough room. Now, I could probably get away with not having hardly any. Let's see. We want him to be able to go in at least that far. So I am going to do this one vertically and go right up to the edge of my glass. There we go. So I think that's going to be just about perfect. Alrighty. So he'll be able to go into our glass and look like that popping out. Okay, now to make sure that he is in the right spot, I'm going to go ahead and put my Pearblossom Press sticky spot right on that mechanism. So it's a little bit of glue there. It's basically like a glue dot. So I'm going to just put that right on the middle there. So now our little piece is sticky to hold our little guy. And then I want it to also be, let's do it so that it is, and I don't have the release paper taken off of my glass yet. This is just so I can get positioning correct for our guy here and make sure that he's in the center when he comes down. Okay, so I want my glass there. I'm going to go ahead and put that up a little bit higher, and let's press that down. So now he's going to be able to, oh gosh, he's going to be able to slide down. Now, if I leave it just with just the one, he can kind of wobble back and forth a little bit. But I think I want to have it so he goes straight up and down, so I know that he's going to land in the glass. So to do that, let's add another one of the snap and slides. And since I left enough room in there, this shouldn't be a difficult thing to do. I haven't tried this before, this first try, so we're going to try it. So I'm going to take this piece that has the knob on it, and I'm going to just slide it into that groove. Lift the other side a bit so I can get that in there. Okay. And then we can put the top on. And then we can do the same thing we did before and take one of our little sticky spots. And I'm going to put that right in the middle of that one. All the way down to the bottom here, so it's going to be inside where the glass is. And then we can just have him, I'm going to say he can go right about there. Now he can slide up and down. All right, now I'll go ahead and add my little glass down to the bottom. Right over the top of our little guy here. That's so cute. Okay, here's something I'm noticing. It's going over the top, but I think that's going to still work. It's still going to look like he's going into the glass. Well, kind of. I think I need to have a little bit more foam popping up the center. So I got to see what I can do to try to fix that. So it looks like there just wasn't enough space there. So what I'm doing is I'm adding another layer. I know this is going to be like 4 layers of regular foam tape because it's a double layer of our world's best foam tape. Doubling it up again, so it's going to give more of a gap there. And here's the thing, the top is this thin piece of cardstock. I can't put anything behind it to basically pop it up enough, so we're going to do it this way. Let's make sure I didn't get him stuck on there. There we go. And now he has enough room to get into the glass. Almost. There we go. We have enough room for him to get into the glass. This is the piece that's going to give me some trouble, so I'm very seriously considering cutting it off, but I don't know if I want to do that. So I figured out how to fix this. This is some lightweight cardstock, so I'm going to layer up a couple more levels with some heavyweight cardstock over the top of it. So I'm just going to add all of these on with some liquid glue. And that's going to strengthen, especially those top pieces, that's going to strengthen these thin little lines because we're going to have more cardstock to work with. Okay, so I've got my layers and I'm going to put my final layer over the top. This one is the red one. So we're changing the color of our little glass from blue to red. I think it'll stand out and pop a little bit better and looks really good with that green. It also added some dimension to the glass. So let me make sure everything is lined up and flattened well. There we go. So now this is it's not flimsy, okay? It's not flimsy like it was. And it doesn't really bother me too much that I can still see some of the white behind it. You're not really going to notice it on here. So I'm going to pop this little thing on top and we're going to do another test and see if we can get our little guy to drop into the glass. And he does. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. All I need now is a sentiment and this card is all done. So I looked in my stash and I found a couple of little baggies full of sentiments for the holidays. So I'm just grabbing out a simple Merry Christmas and adding that to our glass. And that's going to finish up this slider card. I think he's so cute. Oh my goodness. This is one of my favorite new tools to play with. And I am still learning. You saw I made a few little mistakes on here. But we do now have a gingerbread man that slides and drops right down into a glass of milk. I think that is super cute. Such a fun idea. Thank you for my chatters from last week's live stream that gave me this idea to put this one together. You guys rock. I absolutely love it. And if you want to see more cards using the fun new Snap and Slide, be sure to check out this video. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.